Senate will come to order. Would Mr. Schauffele please call the roll?
Senators Amabile, Baisley, Ball, Bridges,
Excused.
Bright, Carson, Catlin,
Excused.
Cutter,
Excused.
Danielson,
Excused.
Doherty, Exum, Frizzell, Gonzalez, Hendrickson, Jaquez Lewis, Judah,
She's walking in.
Kip, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Liston, Lundeen, Marchman, Michelson-Genet, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Snyder, Sullivan, Weissman, Winter.
Excused.
Mr. President,
Let's do this. The roll call of 30 present, 0 absent, 5 excused. We have a quorum. Senator Bright, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Kipp.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of January 21st, 2025 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That's kind. All those opposed? No. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
correctly printed Senate Bills 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, and 65 correctly engrossed. Senate Resolution 003 correctly revised. House Joint Resolution 1005 correctly enrolled. Senate Resolution 003.
Committee reports.
Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 5 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege.
The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We will proceed out of order. Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you guys look over here to the left, it's a wonderful day in the chamber. We have the rodeo queens from different states and also from Canada here. Here in a minute, I will introduce them, but Mr. President, may I have a moment of personal privilege?
Granted.
Thank you. About screwed up. These ladies have a very important job. They're ambassadors for our industry, agriculture, to the rest of you, to educate on the different things about rodeo, about both the human athletes along with the animal athletes, and to teach about agriculture to everybody, kids clear up to adults. So I'm glad they're here in the chamber this morning, and I'll turn it over to the other Senator Pelton.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I ask for a moment of personal privilege?
Granted.
Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about agriculture. We got these stats last night, and I was so excited to share them with everybody in the chamber. As one of the top agriculture states in the United States, Colorado agriculture generates approximately $47 billion annually in economic activity. Agriculture in Colorado is made up of 30 million acres of farmland with 36,000 different farm operations. Colorado agriculture employs more than 195,000 people. Colorado farms and ranches produce $9.2 billion in agriculture products. And this is the one that I always like to talk about, is a total of 4,960 Colorado farms and ranches use renewable energy producing systems on their land. We are 7th in the nation for green energy production, and that's because of agriculture, and that's made it that way. So I just really wanted to put it out there about how awesome our agriculture industry is in this state and how we need to continue.
Senator Peltonar.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to introduce the ladies. First, we have Miss Rodeo, Colorado, Sierra Sutherland. We have Miss Rodeo, Canada, Cody Wilson. Miss Rodeo, Wyoming, Dusty Miller. Miss Rodeo, North Dakota, Claire Grainer. Miss Rodeo, Oregon, Mary Onley. I butchered that, I apologize. Miss Rodeo, Missouri, Courtney McCollum. Miss Rodeo, Kentucky, Ashley Polson. Miss Rodeo, New Mexico, Alyssa Sauter. Miss Rodeo, Arizona, Annalise Cook. Thank you very much, ladies, for being here. It's a beautiful day in the Capitol. Mr. President, may I ask for a short recess so people can meet the ladies?
We will take a short recess so that we can meet all of these ladies, and thank you all for being here. Welcome to the Senate. We'll be in recess. Members, we've been asked to take a group photo, so if you happen to turn and face the camera so we can see your face with the ladies in the back, I'll take a real quick group photo. Here we go. I got you, man. I got you. All right, on three, everybody. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Cool. Good stuff, y'all. Ready? All right, members, we are back. Mr. Schaffler, please add Senator Cutter to the roll. I think that's it. Thank you all for joining us. Consideration of resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title of SJR 004?
Senate Joint Resolution 004 concerning the by Senator Cutter and Representatives Garcia and Froelich concerning the designation of January 22nd as Reproductive Rights and Justice Day.
Senator Cutter.
Mr. President, can we please have the resolution read at length?
Mr. Schaffler, please read the resolution at length.
Senate Joint Resolution 004 by Senator Cutter and Representatives Garcia and Froelich concerning the designation of January 22nd of Reproductive Rights and Justice Day. Whereas on January 22nd, 1973, the Supreme Court of the United States found in Roe v. Wade 410 U.S. 113, 1973, that the United States Constitution protects the right to abortion, and whereas on June 24, 2022, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the precedent established by Roe v. Wade 1973 and Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania versus Casey 505 U.S. 833 1992 ruling in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization 142 S. Court 2228-2022 that the United States Constitution does not confer a right to abortion and that the authority to regulate abortion is returned to the people and their elected representatives. And whereas Justices Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan issued a dissenting opinion in Dobbs stating whatever the exact scope of the coming laws, one result of today's decision is certain: the curtailment of women's rights and their status as free and equal citizens. And whereas the surest protection against the curtailment of rights is now offered by only by state legislatures and within state constitutions. Whereas upon the Dobbs decision and again on the following anniversary of the 1973 ruling, tens of thousands of Coloradans across the political spectrum took to the streets throughout the state to express their disappointment and rage. And whereas overturning Roe has resulted in significant physical and mental trauma to, as well as significant financial burden on people no longer able to access abortion care where they live and who must seek care elsewhere. And whereas marginalized groups have been systematically denied equal access to abortion even before Roe was overturned, especially Black, Latina, Indigenous, people of color, people with lower incomes, and people in remote, rural, or underserved areas. And whereas on April 4th, 2022, to secure the statutory right to abortion free from government interference in the face of pending Dobbs decision, Governor Polis signed into law House Bill 22-1279 passed by the Colorado General Assembly titled the Reproductive Health Equity Act, or RHEA. And whereas on April 14, 2023, Governor Polis signed into law the package of 3 bills passed by the Colorado General Assembly titled the Safe Access to Protected Healthcare Package, or SAPHC package, which included Senate Bills 23-188, 23-189, and 23-190. And whereas Senate Bill 23-188 codified protections for Colorado's patients, providers, and helpers of abortion and gender-affirming care against out-of-state prosecution, civil lawsuits, investigations, and extradition claims. And whereas Senate Bill 23-189 mandated that abortion be a covered service without deductibles, copays, or coinsurance under private health insurance plans, which protects Coloradans on private plans, but not the hundreds of thousands of Coloradans on publicly funded insurance plans. And whereas Senate Bill 23-190 categorized the deliberate false advertising of abortion services as a deceptive trade practice, and whereas Colorado voters defeated fetal personhood amendments, which are total abortion bans, by 30%, Amendment 67 in 2014, by 41%, Amendment 62 in 2010, and by 46%, Amendment 48 in 2008. And whereas in 2020, Colorado voters defeated Proposition 115, a 22-week abortion ban, by 18%, with more votes cast opposing it than President Biden received on the same ballot. And whereas 61.97% of Colorado voters overwhelmingly approved the constitutional right to abortion, solidifying its protection and demonstrating strong public support. And whereas Coloradans deserve the right to the full spectrum of reproductive health care, and we must now enact the will of the voters. And whereas we must enshrine the Federal Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, EMTALA, into state law to ensure that all Coloradans have access to essential life-saving medical care, regardless of federal actions or policy changes, and to prevent gaps in the care that could disproportionately impact vulnerable populations, including those experiencing medical emergencies or pregnancy-related complications. And whereas we must strengthen our SHIELD law to protect robust protections for individuals seeking, providing, or supporting abortion care in Colorado, ensuring their safety and privacy in the face of increasing threats and legal challenges from other states. And whereas enhanced protections are necessary to safeguard against the chilling effect of out-of-state legal actions, prevent the sharing of private health information across jurisdictions, and affirm Colorado's commitment to reproductive freedom. And whereas Colorado was the first state in the nation to legalize abortion, and Colorado has since led the nation at the ballot box and in the legislature and should continue to lead the nation in protecting abortion access without restriction. And be it resolved by the Senate of the 75th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that the members of the Colorado General Assembly, 1, affirm Colorado will continue to protect reproductive rights and access to essential medical care, reaffirming its role as a national leader in advancing and safeguarding these fundamental freedoms, and 2, hereby designate January 22nd of each year as Reproductive Rights and Justice Day.
Thank you, Mr. Schaffler. Senator Cutter, please move SJR 004. Senator Cutter.
Please move SJR 004.
Properly moved. Any discussion? Senator Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the co-chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus of Colorado, I'm proud, along with my lovely colleague from Commerce City, to co-sponsor this resolution declaring January 22nd as Reproductive Rights and Justice Day. Coloradans and the majority of Americans support access to abortion across racial, gender, and party lines. Support for abortion access has been strong since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, and high support for abortion access has continued and even increased over the last 2 years. The voters in Colorado just enshrined the right to abortion care in our state constitution. Today, we honor the past and the landmark decision in Roe v. Wade while looking to the future and our vision of true bodily autonomy, including abortion care access for all. We've always known that Roe set the floor, not the ceiling. So we are continuing to fight to advance protections for abortion providers and those seeking reproductive health care in Colorado. If we truly value women, children, and families, we must do all we can to provide full access to all medical care, trusting women to make their own decisions about their own bodies and their own family planning. Women throughout the U.S. have died because Roe v. Wade was overturned. Children have been left without a mother because Roe v. Wade was overturned. If we truly value women, children, and families, we must ensure better access to hospitals and clinics, health care provided by people our communities trust, insurance that actually covers our real needs, and policies that support families and individuals to live their fullest lives. Because of the cruel policies of several other states, women are facing unimaginable hardships and heartbreak. This is not freedom. The most fundamental right is the right to control your own body. These policies violate the private decision-making of American citizens and strip millions of their freedom to control their own bodies. I'm so proud to serve a state that is a national leader in advancing and safeguarding these fundamental freedoms. Women must not rest until they are free.
Senator Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I was 2 months old when Roe v. Wade became the law of the land. So now you all know I'm 52. Great. I know I told you I was 29. I lied. But I was 2 months old when this landmark ruling became law. And I didn't know then, obviously, that I was going to need this law to protect me and my family. It's about 10 years ago now, 12 years ago now, that I was pregnant with the only child that my husband and I were to have together, my current husband. And this was a very wanted pregnancy, and I had tried for many years to get pregnant, and finally was successful at pregnancy. And we were overjoyed. And we went to all of our appointments. My husband came with me to everything. And on our 20-week visit, the doctor's face went gray when she was doing the ultrasound. And I knew something was wrong. And she said, it wasn't the doctor, it was the tech. And she said, hold on, I'm going to get the doctor. And she goes to get the doctor, and the doctor says to me, there is no more heartbeat. And I can't tell you what happened the rest of the time in the room because I was completely out of my body. But what started happening that was significant to Roe v. Wade is that I started bleeding. And they said you could go to the emergency room and they can help you with the bleeding, where you might get an infection and you might die, or you can have an abortion and remove the child from your womb and thereby stop the bleeding and potential infection. And my husband and I decided we would have an abortion. It was the hardest decision of my life because I didn't want to believe that the baby was dead. But we knew that he was dead, and we knew that my life was at risk. And because I live in Colorado, I was able to have an abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy. I needed that abortion to save my life. And I'm grateful that I live here in Colorado, because had that happened this time around, and had I lived in other states, I could be arrested for murdering my baby, who was already dead. I could have died. And because of the laws of our land, I didn't. So I stand here in constant support of access to abortion care for our communities, and will constantly fight to make sure that that's a reality so that all women are healthy and safe.
Any further discussion? Senator Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to my colleague from Commerce City. A little bit tough to follow those comments. Thank you for sharing. Nonetheless, I wanted to say a few things because I think when the subject comes up, when we talk about Roe, when we talk about Dobbs, when we talk about abortion rights, we are primarily talking about women's rights and the interference by government in women's autonomy. But I firmly believe, notwithstanding how difficult it is to follow what you just said, I firmly believe it cannot only be women speaking up on this issue, and that is why I'm here today. Two reasons, really. The first is very simple. We are all here to fight for our constituents, and I will stand up and fight on these issues for my constituents who are women as long as I am able. That's pretty straightforward. What I think is a little bit more subtle but important in the era in which we find ourselves is simply this. And it goes all the way back, in a way, to our Constitution and what an interesting country we are in the modern era. We are a relatively young country by the standards of some nations in Europe or in Asia, but nonetheless, we have an old Constitution. We have not fundamentally updated our Constitution in the 20th century as a lot of other nations did, and thus the Constitution does not do as much as the constitutions in other nations to protect individual rights. As we know, it sets forth limitations on the powers of the federal government and the relations between the federal government and the states. But with the exception possibly of the Reconstruction Amendments, it does not speak as it ought to individual rights. So protection of individual rights falls to state statutory law or state constitutional law, or, as we're now speaking about, the Supreme Court. Through a lot of the 20th century, the Supreme Court sought to, I think, find full and proper meaning in key provisions of our Constitution as amended. What does due process mean? What does equal protection mean? I submit that if there is not sovereignty over one's own body, those are empty words in our laws. So in the early 1970s, the Supreme Court caught up, and Roe was the law of the land for about 50 years. And then in what I think will go down from the vantage point of 100 years from now as one of the most egregious decisions in the history of the Supreme Court, Roe fell. I am proud to stand with both of you as co-prime sponsors of this resolution and with everybody else up here, because although Roe does not stand, I and we continue to stand for what Roe stood for. And personally, I always will. And I think that we should all care about this, even if when the Supreme Court says the U.S. Constitution does nothing to protect the sovereignty and autonomy of your own body. Leave it to the states, and the consequences are as you've spoken to. A government that will step aside from such a question is a government that I start to question what else will they not protect. Or if you then look at what some of the states are doing, as you informed us of, a government that, with the blessing of the United States Supreme Court, will do some of those things in other states, thankfully not Colorado. That is a government that will do anything to you and take anything from you. That is a government that under our constitutional system I think we should all be deeply afraid of. So at the deepest level, that is why I think that all of us need to care about these issues. And I appreciate you bringing the resolution forward today. Thank you.
Mr. Schaffler, please add Senator Bridges to the roll. Any further discussion? Seeing none. The motion is the adoption of SJR 004. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Simpson, Frizzell, no votes. Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Simpson, Senator 5, Senator 5. Again, no votes for SJR 004. So far, we have Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Simpson, Frizzell, Baisley, Rich, Pelton B, Kirkmeyer, Bright, Carson, Pelton R, Liston, with a vote of 21 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, and 3 excused, SJR 004 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senators, Mr. Majority Leader. There we go. Weissman, Kipp, Jaquez Lewis, Marchman, Kolker, Gonzalez, Amabile, Exum, Mullica, Doherty, Roberts, Snyder, Sullivan, Ball, Henriksen, Bridges, Judah. Please add the president. Announcements. Senator Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, there was a invitation put on your desk yesterday to attend the Press Club. It's the 100th anniversary, and if you haven't been to the building, it's really cool, unique, historic building. They're inviting journalists, all legislators, lobbyists. It'll be a good opportunity to visit a really cool, unique place and have some good conversation. It's from 4 to 7 p.m., so I hope you can all attend, and it's pretty close to the Capitol.
Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 23rd, the Economic Development Council of Colorado is hosting their annual legislative luncheon across the street at First Baptist Church from 11:30 to 1:30. Everyone's invited and encouraged to stop by for lunch, learn about economic development, and meet your local economic development officials. Thank you.
Senator Pelton R. I can't imagine what this is about.
Well, I'll just stop the suspense right now. If you have not contributed or you want to contribute more for the junior livestock sale, that'll be Friday. See myself or Senator Roberts. Hey,
Look at that.
Republicans, Democrats just give some more, so here we go. So please, support our junior youth, in their projects. They are some of the best leaders that come out of our country and our state, so please support them.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, colleagues, donations for the junior livestock sale have slowed down a little bit, and Friday's the deadline, so if you haven't donated, please come find me. And if I can, Mr. President, I have an announcement for a different event. Tomorrow, Senator Simpson and I are hosting our ski resorts. So we would love for you to come to breakfast in the West Foyer starting at 8 a.m. and learn from one of the biggest economic industries in our state about what they're doing in the mountains and providing for residents and visitors alike at our ski resorts. So hope to see you there, 8 a.m. in the West Foyer. Thanks.
Thank you, and Majority Leader Rodriguez, thank you for your $1,000 contribution. Anyone want to match that on the other side of the aisle? Anyone? Right now, we have an opportunity. No? Thank you for your $1,000 that you just gave, Majority Leader Rodriguez. Any other announcements? Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Health Committee, Joint Health and Human Services will be meeting upon adjournment in the old Supreme Court Library.
Any other announcements? Seeing none, Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we are going to recess to read bills across the desk later. No need to return. With that, Mr. President, I move that the Senate recess until 10:30 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will stand in recess until 10:30 a.m.